In this video, I want to take you on a journey through the complex and often turbulent history that has shaped the relationship between India and Pakistan. This is a story that stretches back over centuries, involving empires, colonial ambitions, and the eventual birth of two nations from a single, shared past. My goal here is not to take sides or to add fuel to any existing narratives, but to present the unfiltered, factual history that has defined this relationship. From the impact of British colonial rule to the bloody partition of 1947, the wars that followed, and the ongoing disputes over regions like Kashmir, this video aims to shed light on the critical events and deeply rooted issues that have contributed to the enduring tensions between these two countries. By understanding this history, we can gain a clearer perspective on why the relationship between India and Pakistan remains one of the most challenging and consequential in the world today. Jammu and Kashmir has been a flashpoint for India-Pakistan tensions since 1947. Pakistan has long adopted a strategy of proxy warfare, using groups like Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed to destabilize the region and challenge India's sovereignty. The revocation of Article 370 in 2019 and the subsequent integration of Jammu and Kashmir as a union territory have further agitated terror groups and their backers in Pakistan. Despite global scrutiny, elements within Pakistan's military and intelligence establishment continue to provide logistical, financial, and ideological support to terror outfits operating in Kashmir. The attack in Pahalgam bears the hallmarks of a well-orchestrated infiltration, likely supported from across the line of control. Indian intelligence may have failed to detect early signs of terrorist mobilization. Lack of proactive counterinfiltration surveillance, especially in forested and mountainous areas, gives space for such attacks to occur. Let's go back and look into some of the conflicts that occurred in the past. Pakistan has long used the Kashmir issue as a primary justification for its continued hostility and aggression towards India. Framing its actions as a moral and political struggle for the liberation of Kashmir, Pakistan attempts to cloak its support for cross-border terrorism in the language of self-determination and resistance. However, this narrative is deeply flawed and misleading as it overlooks the historical, legal, and democratic realities of Kashmir's integration into India. By continuously raising the Kashmir issue on global platforms, Pakistan aims to internationalize the dispute, divert attention from its own internal challenges, and justify its ongoing proxy warfare against India. This includes providing sanctuary, funding, and logistical support to terrorist groups like Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, and the Hizbul Mujahideen, which have been responsible for some of the deadliest attacks on Indian soil. Moreover, Pakistan's stance disregards the democratic processes in Jammu and Kashmir, where millions of Indian citizens regularly participate in elections, freely choose their representatives, and benefit from the region's economic and infrastructural growth post the abrogation of Article 370. Instead of genuinely addressing the aspirations of the Kashmiri people, Pakistan has chosen to weaponize the region's complexities for its geopolitical advantage. In reality, this strategy of using Kashmir as a pretext for state-sponsored terrorism not only destabilizes the region but also isolates Pakistan diplomatically, as the global community increasingly recognizes the unacceptability of terrorism as a tool of statecraft. Why Pakistan has no legitimate claim over Kashmir, and how its support for terrorism under the guise of liberating Kashmir is not only false but dangerously misleading, both morally and legally. Kashmir's accession to India was legal and final. In October 1947, the Maharaja of Jammu and Kashmir, Hari Singh, legally signed the instrument of accession to India. This act, under the Indian Independence Act of 1947, was fully constitutional and internationally recognized. The accession gave India complete sovereignty over Jammu and Kashmir, similar to other princely states that joined India or Pakistan. Pakistan frequently refers to UN Resolution 1947 to 1948 to justify its claim, but omits key facts. The resolution first requires Pakistan to vacate all its troops and irregular fighters from the region. To this day, Pakistan has never complied, and instead consolidated control over parts of Kashmir. Only after Pakistani withdrawal could a plebiscite be considered, something that never happened due to Pakistan's non-compliance. After the 1971 war, both India and Pakistan signed the Simla Agreement, which clearly states that Kashmir is to be resolved bilaterally. By continuing to internationalize the issue and sponsor terrorism, Pakistan is violating its own treaty obligations. Pakistan-backed militants do not represent Kashmiris. Terror groups like Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, Hizbul Mujahideen are not freedom fighters. They are proxies of the Pakistani state, often led by individuals with no roots in Kashmir. Their actions, bombings, beheadings, attacks on civilians, have terrorized the very people they claim to liberate. This is not a freedom movement, it's a radical agenda backed by Pakistan's military establishment. True liberation doesn't come through violence. If Pakistan cared for the Kashmiri people, it wouldn't be using their suffering as political leverage. Pakistan's own treatment of Pakistan-occupied Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan exposes its double standards. These areas have no autonomy, and residents face military repression, lack of development, and limited civil rights. How can Pakistan claim to liberate Kashmir when it suppresses Kashmiris under its own control? Kashmir Banega Pakistan is a colonial ambition. The slogan "Kashmir will become Pakistan" is not a call for freedom, it's a call for annexation. This is about fulfilling Pakistan's unfinished ideological goal from 1947, not respecting the will or welfare of the Kashmiri people. India must reaffirm the truth boldly. Kashmir is not a disputed territory. It is an integral and inseparable part of India, politically, legally, and constitutionally. Pakistan's attempts to cloak jihad in the language of liberation must be called out, exposed, and defeated at every level, militarily, diplomatically, and ideologically. The narrative that Pakistan is fighting for Kashmiri rights is a lie. They are instead fueling terrorism to destabilize India and divert attention from their own internal failures. India should act decisively to protect its sovereignty. The passive stance won't help. Not being proactive is itself a risk. When India fails to act decisively or respond in kind, it emboldens terror groups and their sponsors. Terror attacks cannot be treated as isolated incidents. Every act of violence is a strategic message from Pakistan to test India's resolve. Silence or inaction signals vulnerability, inviting further aggression. Terrorism as state policy must be deterred. As long as Pakistan perceives terrorism as a low-cost, high-reward strategy, attacks like Pahalgam will continue. India's restraint in the past, while seen as diplomatic, has not succeeded in deterring repeated assaults. Conduct targeted retaliatory operations against identified terror launch pads and infrastructure across the LoC. Increase monitoring and preemptive targeting of suspicious movements in infiltration-prone sectors. Empower units for cross-border covert operations to dismantle terror cells. Mobilize international pressure on Pakistan by presenting concrete intelligence on terror support. Demand that key allies US, UK, EU, tie aid and diplomatic engagement to Pakistan's actions against terror groups. Push for Pakistan's re-blacklisting by Financial Action Task Force based on continued terror financing. Bolster local policing, intelligence sharing between central and state agencies, and establish high-tech monitoring systems in border areas. Increase civil-military engagement in sensitive districts to prevent radicalization and improve early warning systems. Conduct cyber counter-operations targeting propaganda arms of terror networks. Leverage India's economic clout to exert indirect pressure by limiting trade and diplomatic privileges to Pakistan. In conclusion, Pakistan has no legal, moral, or historical claim over Kashmir. By supporting terrorism under the false pretense of liberation, it not only violates international law but insults the very idea of freedom. True liberation does not come from guns, grenades, and terror. It comes from peace, democracy, and respect for human dignity. India must remain vigilant, proactive, and unapologetic in defending Kashmir as its own, and in exposing the fraudulent and violent hypocrisy of Pakistan's Kashmir policy. The Pahalgam attack is not just an isolated act of violence. It's a manifestation of Pakistan's deep state strategy to destabilize India through asymmetric warfare. Inaction is not neutrality, it is a risk multiplier. A proactive and multifaceted strategy that combines military precision, diplomatic aggression, internal resilience, and global narrative control is essential. If India does not respond decisively now, it risks inviting more devastating attacks in the future. National security must not be a reaction. It must be a preemptive shield.